So firstly, before I even begin, I just wanted to apologise for me being really awkward on camera. This is my first time just sitting and talking to a camera, and it's pretty weird. But today I wanted to talk about something that has been a big part of my life for way too long, and that was my obsession with food, eating and body size. And I wanted to share this because the thing that ended up giving me that final push to actually get over it was hearing other people's stories on YouTube actually, and learning how what you eat has such a big effect on your mental health and happiness. I want you to know how unhappy I was when I wasn't eating, how it stole most of my young teenage years, and how you're not alone, because I remember thinking at the time that I was so alone. I want you to know that you can recover and you can form a healthy relationship with food again. So I think for me it started when I was about 7 years old. I moved states at this time, and I went from being like a really confident kid with lots of friends to being really shy and quiet. And even at such a young age, I started to exclude myself and felt really alone even when I was surrounded by lots of other kids. I also formed this idea that growing up and getting bigger was a bad thing, so I would deny that I'd grown out of clothes, and I love the celebrations that come along with birthdays like most other kids did, but I didn't like the idea of getting older. And so I remember the night before my 10th birthday party, I had a goodbye ceremony with my younger brother because I thought it was the end of childhood. I never ate shop bread, I always had big homemade bread, and I'm not really sure why, but at this time I started to throw my lunches out. I'm not really sure why I did it, but I didn't like that my lunches were different to other kids, and I also got attention from it, so other kids thought it was funny. And this was also about the same time that I had discovered vegetarianism, so when I was at like parties or school excursions, I would, to make a point, only eat something like lettuce leaves, even though there were other things available to me. Then my mum got sick. She was diagnosed with breast cancer and had to have a mastectomy and undergo chemotherapy, and I didn't really deal with it well, and I had to do a lot of quick growing up. I started to just bottle things up and thought that I had to be strong. So I also at this time became responsible for making the school lunches, and I just stopped making my own. And I also kept a diary at this time, and I can now see that my entries changed from kind of a kid just reporting like what I did on a day-to-day basis to just entries filled with self-hate. So when I started high school, things just got a lot worse. My mum was still sick, and starting a big new school just only made me more anxious and quiet, and I decided that I didn't deserve friends or food. So even though other kids were nice to me and I kind of had friends in class, I had a route that I walked by myself every lunchtime, and other kids would sometimes even ask me where I had been at lunchtime, but I didn't think I deserved their friendship, so I'd just lie. And also at the time I thought that it meant that I didn't have to explain why I wasn't eating. So at this time my eating was at its worst. I only ate dinner because my parents made me. I would eat the smallest amount possible, and I would avoid carbs like the plague. I also would sometimes even make myself sick, but I hated doing it, but I sometimes thought I had to. It was a vicious cycle that I got into, so I would cry every day because I didn't think I had any friends and I was so lonely, but then I would exclude myself further. A few times I even got called skinny or anorexic, and I saw it as a compliment, some kind of sick triumph. So back in primary school I decided that if I dressed like a tomboy, said I was a tomboy, wore baggy clothes, that I could hide it better from my friends and family and anyone around me. But my dad started to notice my lack of eating and weight. And his way of dealing with it was to just shout at me and try and force me to eat. But in a way I think this only made it worse. In one of my diary entries I actually wrote, it was just the summer before I started year 9, I wrote that my dad was so horrible because he made me eat 2 slices of toast, and I was so glad that summer was ending because he would go back to work and I would go back to school and he couldn't do anything, and that I was never gaining weight. Sometime near the end of year 9, something changed in me. I was sick of being shouted at by my dad, sick of being lonely, sick of being that girl that just walked around by herself. I was sick of crying every day. I decided I didn't want to be that lonely girl anymore. And I got the luck of the draw with seating plans in class, and I just sat next to this girl that I just vibed with. And I made friends that I'm still lucky enough to call some of my best friends today. I started saying yes when people asked me to sit with them at lunchtime, and I walked my route alone less and less. I don't even think those girls know it, but in a big way, they saved me. They were open and honest, and they told me when something was wrong, they weren't okay. They told me when things weren't okay at home, when they were having problems, even when they were only just getting to know me. And it was something I really needed to hear, because even if it's such a simple concept, I just needed to know that everyone has struggles and that's okay. I realized that I wasn't alone. I don't think I ever made a completely conscious decision about it, but after it being so long without me having any friends, I didn't want to lose them. I ate again, as that's what people do when they hang out, they eat together. But never much, and food was always on my mind. I gained a bit of weight, but only up until a certain point that I decided was normal and that I could get away with without people noticing. I was always known as that naturally skinny girl who had a small appetite, who didn't need to eat much. But that wasn't reality. I was hungry most of the time, but I got away with eating this way for so long because I was now no longer underweight. I was kind of normal, just small. And I would go out and eat normally with my friends and even sometimes have a treat. But if I did, there would always be a punishment. I would always say I was full when I wasn't, only eat small amounts, push my food around the plate, avoid carbs. And I gained a little more weight after I quit dancing, but the restriction continued all the way through my university years. I went vegan because of ethical reasons, and then I found the raw to full lifestyle. But I only used it as another excuse to restrict. So I would eat a punnet of strawberries or some grapes or some vegetable sticks for a meal. And that's actually not what the raw to full lifestyle was about at all. As embarrassing as it is, until maybe a few years ago, when I went out to dinner with my family, I would eat about half of my meal, or just a small amount as I could, and then my dad would split like how much I still had to eat. I had this done to me as an adult. So I was pretty late to join some of the social media bandwagon. I got Instagram years after most other people, and I started getting more into watching vegan YouTubers, and I started to find girls that were around my age, and they were fit, healthy, but most importantly happy. And they ate as much food as they wanted. Most of them had come from restrictive pasts, and they shared their stories, and I decided to give it a proper shot this time. No more restriction. Most of the girls followed high carb, low fat vegan lifestyles, and this is the lifestyle that I still follow today, and I am the happiest that I have ever been. It's still a journey and I'm learning every day, but I never want to go back to how I was before. So I did have a few slip-ups though. About a year and a half ago, maybe more, I went off the pill, and I've been on it for 6 years for acne, and I gained 7 kilos just in 1 month, just like that. And I cried so much, and I started excluding myself from my friends and social situations. And I had a constant battle with my mind because I knew that it would be easier for me just to stop eating. I knew that I could lose the weight that way. And I thought that that would make me happy. So one specific night I actually remember I was supposed to go to dinner with some of my friends, and I attempted to get ready and then I just ended up like breaking down and crying, and I cancelled on them. But then I remembered a promise to myself that I wanted to be more open and honest. So I ended up texting them and told them the real reason why I cancelled. Then I reassessed what I was doing, and I remembered my promise to myself to be more open and vulnerable. The difference was in me at this point in time compared to in the past was I was able to assess my negative thoughts, and like I realized what I was doing, and I reminded myself about how unhappy I was before, and I knew I didn't want to go back to that. My friends actually completely understood, and they reminded me of something that I should have known all along. Your friends don't love you because of what you look like. They don't care what you look like. They don't care what you wear. They don't care if you have a massive pimple on your head, and they certainly don't care about your weight, because your friends love you despite your weight, not because of it. So today I actually haven't lost any of the weight that I gained, even though it was like a while ago now. But the difference is today I care less and less every day. I don't stand in front of the mirror as much and criticize every part of my body. I now try to remind myself that I'm lucky to have a body that works, that allows me to do the things that I want to do every day. Even if I don't have my goal body, being healthy both physically and mentally is what is more important to me now. I also know that if I treat my body right, eating lots of plant-based, whole foods, sleeping regularly, exercising, I'll actually never have to worry about my weight because my body knows what it is doing. I also now know that weight doesn't matter. It doesn't define happiness. When I was skinny, I wasn't happy. In fact, I was the opposite. I was always miserable. My dad actually used to say something to me that at the time I rolled my eyes at, but it's so true. What happens if you don't put petrol in a car? Well, food is fuel, and if you don't give your body fuel, how do you expect to run? I isolated myself and obsessed over food and body size for a big part of my life. And for what? Like, why did I care so much? I've actually never ate more, been happier, been healthier than right now. In fact, I think maybe I needed to gain that weight to know that my life wouldn't end because of it. So please learn from me. Be open, be vulnerable. If you're not okay, tell someone, tell anyone. Share your feelings, your emotions. Don't bottle things up, because people aren't mind readers, and it's okay to need help. A big part of the reason that I decided to share this is because I don't think it's something that I've explained to many people or anyone really fully. And anyone who knows me from primary school or early high school days might be surprised, because as such a quiet girl, I was able to go pretty under the radar. And especially after I was older and I was eating but still restricting, I was able to hide it even better because I was no longer like underweight. I was normal. But I want you to know that just because somebody from the outside seems like such a happy person, you never really know what's going on. Like, I think that a lot of people who knew me then might be surprised that I was unhappy for so long. Because even at the time, like when I thought that I had no friends, when I look back on it now, I always had people around me who cared, even if I never let them be close to me or let them in. And people may have described me as quiet, but probably not past the point of being about 15. And I'm sure that people would know me as being happy and being surrounded by lots of friends. But this is not how I saw it for a really long time. So just know that everyone has insecurities, and that's okay, but don't let them consume you. Something very important that I have learned is that most people won't notice the things that you're most insecure about. They're not going to notice the big pimples in your face or if you've gained a bit of weight. And do you know why? Because people are too busy worrying about themselves to be thinking about you. And that might sound a little funny, but it's the truth. Know what isn't good for you. So for me, that might be looking at girls like who have perfect bodies on Instagram, or even just looking at myself for too long in the mirror. Get new role models, get real role models, people that you admire, not for what they look like, but for who they are as a person. People who are happy and healthy. Practice self-love and gratitude every day, and remember why you love your friends and family. Is it because of the body they have, or is it because who they are as a person? Therefore, that's why they'll love you. Remember that food is fuel, and if you don't fuel your body right, how do you expect it to perform to its potential? And remember that if your body is working and functioning, then you are lucky. It is imperfectly perfect because it allows you to do what you want every day. It provides you with the vessel that allows you to live your life. Remember, when it comes down to it, all that really matters in life is being happy. And restricting or being skinny won't give you that. Please don't lose any more time you could have had living your life to your potential and being happy. Please reach out and get some help and choose happiness, because it's all we've really got and life is short enough as it is already. To finish, here is me before my eating disorder. 'Cause I like to keep my issues strong. It's always darkest before the... Here is me when I was in it. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Oh, and it's hard to dance with the devil on your back, so shake it up. Oh, and it's hard to dance with the devil on your back. Given half the chance, would I take a... And what does my body look like now? Well, that doesn't really matter because I'm the happiest I've ever been, and I'm learning to love myself more and more every day, and I hope you do too. So if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching, and I'm sorry that it was so long, but please remember that you are so much more than your body, and it doesn't define your worth or your happiness. God let it happen to me, yeah.